Alright, so Ukraine started to use the Abrams tanks again. It was a very big gap for them to be seen on the front lines. I guess for the few months for sure, so Ukraine removed the tanks after gaining some of the losses from the Russian side, but now those tanks are being modernized with some of the Contact 1 armor. From what I know, crews went to additional training and now we can see those tanks again fighting on the front lines. This video fully I will publish on my Telegram channel because after all it is the combat image, and here is the Russian position, so Ukrainian tank went to storm it. So you may see lots of the contact armor on the front, on the turret itself. This spot you may say is also kind of vulnerable, but maybe it's also the explosives armor. Plus this tank has the additional armor plates on both of the sides of the base. So it became like the urban modification of the Abrams tank, which the United States used widely in Iraq. The survivability of this machine is just extraordinary. It's proven by many of the conflicts. But now it's probably the biggest challenge for the Abrams tank, Ukrainian war, because the Russian side has absolutely everything to target the tank. Nevertheless, they are successful on the front lines, as we may see in this video. Maybe here I'll show you more screenshots. So here are the Russian positions again, and tank. It wasn't alone out there. There were many of the drones plus some of the artillery which helped the tank to perform its job. Ukraine uses just a single tank in this attack just to reduce the possible losses. We all have seen how Russia advances with their big, huge convoys. Usually those are very easy to spot and very easy to aim. Here just a single tank goes, does its job and returns back to the positions. The same tactics, by the way, Ukraine is using with Bradleys. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. That particular counter-strike of Ukraine happened in Pokrovsk direction, so it was filmed somewhere in this place, so probably Russians took Ukrainian trenches and Ukraine tried to repel Russians from the positions. But nevertheless, as you may see, Russia propels forward towards Zelanya village, and here they also try to move, but apparently some of the defense lines in the area are definitely the big obstacle for the Russian advancing forces, because they are standstill there for a few days, so they are unable to penetrate this line. However, the fight is very intense out there. Guys, if you like the content which I produce daily and if you want to support the job that I do, you may go to the link in the video description just below where you might find my Patreon page. So thank you so much for your kind support on Patreon and your motivation. The other place where Ukraine tries to counterattack is the New York town. Here, unfortunately, Russia was successful. They've took many of the fields in this region and they constantly use the aviation gliding bombs. Unfortunately, yes, still they use those. However, the Russian jets which dropped those bombs are unable to operate from Morozovsk airfield in Rostov Oblast, Russian Federation. The Russian Air Force temporarily suspended all of the flights to and from Morozovsk because infrastructure of the airfield was significantly damaged. How significantly, you may ask? Well, very hard. Those are the heavily damaged Russian fighter jets or fighters bombers. Both of those are Sukhoi 34, and here you can see that the airplane is in lag of the part of the wing and it's banking on one of the sides, and this airplane is also reported as the damaged one, and this is the place of the kaboom, so probably there was one more drone strike exactly on this parking spot. The other Sukhoi 34 is completely gone because it caught fire, so the drone hit nearby area, caused the devastation to the fighter jet and surroundings. So we know that at least 3 of those airplane types were kaboomed because of the Ukrainian strike on Morozovsk. But the main thing that Russia lost the entire ammunition out there. There were many bombs, many of them missiles, because this airfield was the busiest one for the Russian Air Force to conduct the strikes and drops on Ukrainian positions. So Russia definitely lost a tremendous number of the shells out there and the gliding bombs, and obviously it will make the Russian army less successful on the front lines. We may see that still they're capable to take the ground, but it's just because of the inertia. I think that in a couple of days they will hold on for a while because there will be not enough gliding bombs for them to conduct their attacks. And this is the picture probably taken from the drone of the same ammunition depot of the same airfield in Morozovsk. You may see, the devastation caused by the drone attack is just tremendous. So the drone launched the chain reaction. The shells just start to kaboom one by one, so it was a very spectacular view by the time. Some of the eyewitnesses filmed that, and I share those kind of the videos on my Telegram, so please subscribe for me out there. So you can see that those walls from the soil or something like that didn't really help. But also Russia lost the part of their engineering facilities in this airfield. The engineering hangars were also targeted. You may see holes in both of the hangars. So I believe that Ukraine after all used many of the drones out there. Or probably those hangars and the nearby buildings were damaged by the airfield shells, the munition that was exploding and flying all around. Alright, and let's check the recent Russian advancement using the deep state military map. Let's zoom into the Pokrovsk direction. And here Russia obviously went, they want to encircle the Jelania village, but we'll see how it goes for them, because Ukraine, as you saw, also is able to counterattack in this area. But in other spots there was no movement of the Russian army. Kind of strange, maybe they already in lack of the aviation gliding bombs, because they are unable to operate from their most used airfield in Morozovsk. However, still they went forward in New York, or probably Ukraine removed a part of its army from this place. So let's go. It was yesterday and is today. I said maybe a week ago that it's time for Ukraine to withdraw the forces from this area, because it was a great risk of encirclement of Ukrainian army, and probably our command decided to do it. Well, still there's the risk for Ukrainian army out here, but it's not that dramatic as it was before. So definitely it seems like Russia is apt to occupy New York, and we know that they entered Torets from this side. So yes, they're advancing from other vector. Again, yesterday and today, here they're more or less successful. So it's their goal number 2 after Pokrovsk. One more hotspot, Chasiv, and there was no movement for today. So today, Russia was stopped not just by the natural obstacle, but also by Ukrainian defense line, which lies at the same line with the river. So Russia still has the initiative on the front lines, but it's nothing compared to what it was in 2022. Then Russians took the vast parts of Ukrainian territory. Just to remind you, all the southern part was occupied in a matter of 4 days. There was just a single spot of resistance in Mariupol, so Ukraine wasn't really prepared for this war fully. However, now it repels the most of the Russian attacks, causing them severe losses. Russia is far to be strategically successful on the front lines. They might have just a limited tactical success in small villages or towns, but the price the Russian army pays for it is just astonishing. None of the country in the modern history had those dramatic losses, but Russian Federation has, and it's caused by Ukraine, kind of the small country compared to the Russian Federation, with much less military capabilities, with much less lands and population, but somehow Ukraine still holds on and sometimes strikes Russia really hard. Guys, Russia is definitely scared of F-16s. In their propaganda media, they say that Ukraine not just obtained F-16s fighter jets, but also the tactical nukes for them to be used against the Russian army. Just imagine this level of bullshit, and they say that it's profitable for the United States of America. They want to nuke Russia using Ukraine. Kind of the interesting logic out there, and I monitor the Russian propaganda TV, and they say a lot about the nukes. How would they nuke everyone around, but at the same time they're so scared about the revenge. Obviously Ukraine hasn't received any sort of the nuclear weaponry. United States was the country number 1 which insisted for Ukraine to give up the nukes. And now we need the support from the United States of America because they insisted on that. And here just for you to see beautiful images of Ukrainian F-16s. Especially this one is really cool. Meanwhile, Russia started a new fight against their mobile devices. It's the saying in the Russian army that all of the soldiers should give up their phones to their military command or destroy them, because Ukraine might spot every Russian soldier if they use mobile devices, which is actually not true. The main idea for the Russian officials is to cancel the communication of the Russian soldiers with their relatives, and to avoid the complaints from the Russian soldiers published in the social media, because it might destroy the spirit of the Russian army. Well, actually that spirit is very low, but others Russians might see that the situation in the Russian army is not as good as they see on the Russian TV. So now the destiny is known. All of the Android phones, all of the iPhones, if they have those, are being nailed to that column of their shelter. Don't worry, you don't need your phone in your afterlife. But what's the best thing Russian army does is marching near to their positions, maybe also to boost the spirit of their army. But sometimes this tactics is damn wrong, because this particular facility where the Russian army is based was targeted. It happened in occupied part of the Donetsk Oblast, so before and after. The soldiers who were marching on the video I showed you before did it in this street. And here are some of the images taken from the place. At least 20 of the Russian soldiers reportedly would never need their phones any longer. And definitely this Russian base was kaboomed very hard by HIMARS, so it was HIMARSed. One more proof that the Russian army is using the Discord servers for communication, and basically they publish live videos from their drones. And they also use Discord for the communication between the soldiers, and probably the local commanders on the battlefield also have mobile devices, because without it, it's impossible to receive this data. Kind of the interesting report we have from some of the media sources. Ukrainian special services were preparing a strike on Putin and the defense minister of the Russian Federation, Belousov, at the parade in St. Petersburg city. The parade was dedicated to the Russian Marine Fleet anniversary, so to the Russian Navy. A source military says the attack was supposed to take place on July 28 on a Russian Navy Day, but a few days before, the Russian defense minister personally called the United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to convince Ukraine to abandon its plans. So Russians apparently knew about Ukrainian plans. However, guys, at the same time, there are no proofs of that information. Well, the information is closed, and it's impossible, definitely, to obtain any proofs if really this situation was out there. But maybe some journalists made the things up, and probably Ukraine even haven't got any plans to do so. I think that we'll never know. Some of the Ukrainian battalions are already using the Davydov type of the drones. Well, this one is Unity Go 2 Pro, and we have even the video of the drone. This is the camera. Yes, they put some of the screen just to entertain the viewer, but dog is out there, and it's very effective monitoring the streets and the possible shelters of the Russian soldiers. As you may see, the Cyberdog is portable, and you know it might cause even less noise compared to the aerial drone. It also might perform the functions of the stationary camera, and I think that it might carry some load on top, like light munition, magazines for the rifles, water, food. So definitely drones are more and more integrated into the modern day war. Right, we have the proof that North Korea sent their ballistic missile systems to the Russian Federation. The name of those systems are NK-23, and Ukraine found some of the debris, which already helped to identify the North Korean ballistic missile. I wonder if the missiles were sent together with the vehicles. Probably yes, or maybe Russia might use their own installations to launch the ballistic missile made in North Korea. Russia hit some of the Ukrainian infrastructure in Brovary. It's not far away from Kiev, and it's very hard to intercept ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, to the international news, some of the sources report that the war between Israel and Iran is almost imminent, but I guess there is the problem for Iran at first. It is not bordering Israel. There is at least Iraq and Jordan between them, so I don't think that the full-scale war is really possible between two of those countries, but airstrikes will obviously happen. For example, the Secretary of State of the United States, Blinken, told to the representatives of the G7 countries that Iran and Hezbollah could attack Israel in the next 24 hours. Well, in this article, they say up to 48 hours. I personally think that it might happen tomorrow night. Well, Israel already responded that if there is the damage to Israeli infrastructure, they will strike the nuclear facilities of Iran. Maybe it is the main reason for Iran to hesitate with attack so far. But after all, I believe that they could launch the strike on Israel, just a limited one as it was the last time. Iran is definitely scared for the possible response from Israel and the other countries of the coalition, so they requested more of the air defense systems from the Russian Federation. Kind of funny because Russia struggles with the air defense systems themselves. Many of those were kaboomed by Ukrainian drones. Shoigu went to Iran today for the consultations around the topic. Also, Russia sent some of the Iskander missiles to Iran, so Russia obtains ballistic missiles from North Korea but sent its own ballistic missiles to Iran. You see how those dictators are interconnected between each other. By the way, guys, what do you think? Is the big war possible in the Middle East, or is it gonna be like the last time with a failed Iranian strike on Israel? You may write your opinion in the comment section just below, and later on we're gonna cross-check everything, because there could be many of the opinions. The Russian military official and the director of the Patriot Park of the Russian Federation, yeah, it's the biggest military park out there in Russia, was arrested today. He's been investigated for the possible money laundering. Then they built this park with the biggest military church. Yes, military church out there. So this is the park of the Russian Defense Ministry with this huge church. And it doesn't look like Christianity. It looks like some sort of the cult. It's the darkest church probably. Those star tips look like missiles. It was done for purpose. The church is also kind of dark from inside. There are also lots of the battle images, icons. Here's one more image showing the Soviet soldiers carrying the flags of defeated enemies of Nazi Germany and Japan. As for me, it's not the Christianity, it's some sort of the Satan cult building. Some markets went down globally in Asia, in the United States, in Europe, as well as the cryptocurrencies. Some investors do afraid about the recession in the United States, which might happen the next year. Well, we'll see how it goes. Economy is never stable. Now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot, really. As usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.